Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 10 of the Trainer Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the food industry and try to give you guys some insight on how we're kind of manipulated into eating foods that are unhealthy for us, marketed and advertised about all these different foods that are very unhealthy for us. We want to try to kind of change your perspective and give you some information on how to eat better and also help your family out when it goes to food choices as well. So we'll have Bethany start out with a couple of little tips and things that she's gathered for you guys about the food industry, and then we'll just kind of bounce back and forth like we usually do and hopefully give you guys as much information as possible. So,
all right, so I'm going to start off with a couple of studies. So there was a study done on mice to show like the addictive natures of sugar versus cocaine, and then like sugar versus an artificial sweetener, sucralose, which is in quite a few processed foods. And they actually found that the mice preferred sugar over cocaine, and then they preferred the sucralose over the sugar because it's actually much sweeter, but it's a much less natural form of sweetness or sugar. That's why it's so like overpowering. The sugar is way more addictive as well. So even though like sugar is very addictive and everything, sucralose, the artificial sweetener, is even more addictive. So that's why when people often go to like diet sodas or something like that, then they can often end up drinking more of those than they would have if they just drank the regular normal kind.
and just to add that, and when you do drink the artificial sweetener, since you're not actually getting the sugar, don't you end up wanting more and more because your body wants that sugar?
Yeah, exactly. Your body, so when you take in your, like the drink or whatever has the sucralose in it, it recognizes that it's sweet, and your body starts to prepare, like we kind of talked in our gut health video, starts to prepare for digestion of those sugars. But when the stuff, whatever you ate, reaches the stomach, it doesn't actually have anything for it to digest. So the body again freaks out. It's like, we're not getting any calories. We need to eat more of like carbs because we have all these enzymes produced and we have nothing to process. So the body gets a little bit worried and causes you to eat more with the sucralose or any type of like artificial sweetener. And then another part is maltodextrin, which is in quite a few processed foods. I heard about it, and it's basically a form of carbohydrate or sugar that doesn't taste sweet. So you can add it into anything just to give it extra carbs and empty calories, because your body actually doesn't recognize it that it's calories. So you might be eating something that's 150 calories, but if it has a bunch of maltodextrin in it, then it only recognizes it as 40 calories. So then you tend to eat more than you typically would have. Like you end up eating 3,000 calories of ice cream or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, how did I eat all that? I usually eat like that much in a day, and it's because like your body didn't recognize that was calories, so it just kind of kept wanting more, and you were able to eat more than you typically would. And what I found is like a lot of products that like you wouldn't really think have added sugars in, like something that's not sweet, for example. Like I was looking at the back of a Starbucks coffee can, it was like 0 sugar, which I knew it was going to have some sort of like artificial sweetener in there, which it had sucralose, and it had maltodextrin, which I was like, I don't know why they would add the maltodextrin in there. I thought the carbs would just be from the sucralose or something like that. But I found that it was in there, and it's also very high on the list for a lot of processed foods. So like something that's boxed or something that typically like you would get carbs from already, they literally just added it in just because they wanted to. Like there was like a rice packet I was looking at, and it had maltodextrin in it, and it's like, well, you're already getting carbs from the rice, but they just added it in there for no reason. It's like, that's cool. So like that's always a problem, just because your body is not recognizing it as calories. And then again, along the lines of sugar, about 2/3 of the store, probably more or less depending on the store, has added sugar in it or some sort of added sweeteners. And like the way to avoid that is just having your whole foods and then looking at the label and seeing if there's any added sugars. Like bread can have added sugars in it where it really doesn't need it. So checking for those. Trying to eliminate like the high fructose corn syrup, which is in pretty much anything processed. And then what food companies kind of do to not just, add stuff in to make it more addictive. They also have like marketing strategies to make it more addictive. They actually hire psychologists and food engineers for the food side of it, but then also for like the packaging and the way it looks, the way it feels in your mouth, and whatever makes it more pleasing. They do studies on it, and there's like a bliss point for sugar, salts, and fats that make you like want more, where it's like not too sweet, but it's not like a less amount of sweet where it doesn't affect you as much. So they found that point, and it's actually higher for children than it is for adults. So that's why, for kids, it's like the really sugary cereals, and they got the fruit roll-ups and the gummies and everything that's like pure sugar. That's more marketed towards kids. They have their different, movie characters on them, or they have like some sort of cartoon like Tony the Tiger that's saying, "Oh, eat this and you'll be good at sports," and different marketing strategies like that. And it's kind of scary with those associations that kind of get built up. With like different foods, you'll associate like ice cream with, after a ball game, you go out with the team and you celebrate with an ice cream. So you associate that with a pleasant memory. Or like, there's cheesecake at every Thanksgiving you have. So cheesecake is like that source of like warm memories. So it honestly leads to something trigger you where like you're stressed out or something, or you want to be calm, and you see the cheesecake and you're like, you remember those warm, like loving memories, and you're like, I can get comfort from this because that's what I associate it with. And you really don't. You end up wanting it more than you actually enjoy eating it. So it's more about the want than it is about the actual food.
Yeah, and obviously these things are what is leading to the obesity epidemic that we're in as a nation, is just because of all these foods that we have access to. Literally everywhere you go, you're going to see something that's highly processed with added sugars and preservatives and food dyes and all these things. And basically, every single year, these big organizations spend billions of dollars on the marketing strategies to entice you to eat more of it. And that's why they're adding sugar into all these foods, is because you're addicted to sugar and they know that. So it's a way for them to get you to eat more and more and more of it, because they will make more money. So the food industry is basically just kind of a big business out there to make as much money as they can, and they figured out that advertising to people like us that are addicted to sugar, and we see it and we want it, all these bright colors and things like that, like candy, especially children, as every cereal, chocolate chip cookie cereal and marshmallow cereal, all this stuff that's supposed to be the most nutritious meal of the day is actually just a sugar-filled processed meal, because they're going to eat more and more and more and more of it and become addicted. So it's a very scary and unfortunate kind of cycle of events that we are faced with. So one of the things that I would recommend is just trying to literally like turn off your TV and avoid those advertisements and things like that, especially for your children. Try to limit how much access they have to seeing those marketing things. And unfortunately, I've seen a few like commercials in the past where like professional athletes will be endorsed by like McDonald's and stuff like that. And you got to realize they're getting probably paid tons of money to just make a 5-minute commercial so that McDonald's can sell and make billions of dollars. So they're just using you guys to make a bunch of money. It's not healthy food. It's terrible for you. You have to understand that it's just a big business, and that's what we're trying to kind of inform you guys on today. On top of that, I wanted to kind of go over a little article that I had read. So a lot of these companies, they know that they are affecting our health, and when they're kind of called out on it, they will revert back to, it's our personal responsibility to realize that we're eating something unhealthy. But the problem is we don't have the knowledge to know that it's really, really bad for us. So big companies and organizations will defend their position and basically ask, why are we to blame when we're just giving the people what they want? Because we're addicted to this sugar and all these sweets and things. So food advertisers, since they believe that they're not forcing anybody to eat it, that they are not to blame for this epidemic. Well, although that may be true, it's obviously in our best interest to watch what we eat. But when it's advertised literally everywhere you go, think about going to the grocery store, to the gas station, wherever, a party store, wherever you go, what is right at the checkout counter when you buy anything? You could be going you could go to an auto parts store and buy motor oil, and they probably got candy bars at the checkout. It's insane. It's literally everywhere. Candy bars, it's because it's one more sale. It's a way to make more money. It's because they know you're going to buy it, and then you're going to continue buying more. And the bad part is when we talked about our gut health portion, when you feed the bad bacteria in your gut all this sugar and processed foods and stuff like that bad bacteria continues to build up, and it sends signals to your brain, I want more of this stuff, we want more of this stuff. So actually, the more you eat, the more addicted you become. And that's why people turn to this stuff when they're stressed out or they have a bad day. It makes them feel better. It gives them that little hit of dopamine, and it makes them feel a little bit better. So we want to try to kind of reverse that. Start feeding the good bacteria with healthier foods, and start to try to avoid all that bad stuff. So basically, these companies are kind of using us, and it's almost like you're a victim to their marketing strategy. So if you're somebody that's overweight or deals with this type of thing, you're basically victim to that marketing strategy, and you're buying into this kind of sugar addiction that they're trying to get you to buy more and more and more of. So you're just feeding their business in a way. Do your own homework, kind of understand okay, is this going to be good for me or is this bad for me? Read the labels, things like that. Know what you're getting. Another thing, false advertising. So a lot of companies you'll see now, and they kind of go with the trends. Like right now, keto diet's really popular, and gluten-free and non-GMO and stuff. But the problem is they put that label on everything, no matter if it can even possibly contain. They'll put gluten-free on something that could never contain gluten. They put keto-friendly on something that would never have carbs anyways. You got to understand that it's just a marketing strategy, because you understand you're getting marketed to that this is a good, healthy diet. So they put that label on there so that it looks healthier, even though it might not be. And a good example is a few years back, Kellogg's came out with a Nutri-Grain bar, and they basically put the bar with water and salads and somebody exercising in the background, basically made it out to be like a nutritious health food because it had some grains in it. And they actually got sued for it because it's in fact not a healthy food. So they actually got sued for that advertisement. So just be careful of, don't just look at the front of it and see, oh, it's keto friendly or gluten free or non-GMO, it's got to be healthy. Turn it around and read the label. If it's got a million ingredients on there and a bunch of preservatives that you can't pronounce, it's not going to be healthy for you. It's probably got some added sugars in there. So just try to be leery of reading those labels, because the food industry is, like we said, out there to get you basically and get you addicted to that food. And something that really bothers me is you don't see any advertisements or marketing on fruits and vegetables and the health foods. There was a study where they it was almost 9,000 advertisements to children, and not a single one of them was on fruits and vegetables or the importance of eating healthy. All of them were on cereals and candy and probably fast food and things like that. Okay, so we blame fast food a lot for this obesity epidemic, when in reality it's actually way bigger than that. The food industry itself is just as big of a culprit as the fast food industry. So make sure you're doing your homework and reading labels, and just try to shop around the perimeter of the store. If there's more than 10 ingredients, just make sure you're aware of what they are. If you can't pronounce them, try to stay away from it. If there's 20 grams of added sugar, probably stay away from that. Maltodextrin, like she said. A lot of cereals have BHT as well, which is actually a chemical, and it can cause cancer. So if you're feeding your kid cereal every single day, they're going to have a lot higher chance of developing diseases or cancer in the future. Not to mention, 1 in 3 children will develop diabetes at some point because of the lifestyle that we're living and the foods that we have access to. One more thing is basically those preservatives and the highly processed foods, they're basically unrecognizable to your digestive system, to your body as nutrients. So your body doesn't really break it down and utilize anything. And that's why when Bethany mentioned that you're just going to continue eating more and more and more because your body's actually not getting any of the nutrients. That's why you just pile on calories and it ends up being stored as body fat. And obesity is the #1 leading cause to any disease or death. So we need to control this, and that's kind of why we're coming to you about the food industry, because that's the biggest culprit to the epidemic. Austin, do you have anything else to
I have a couple points to tie in with you and Bethany. So I liked how you brought up about how like food companies use labels that just kind of attract people. You mentioned non-GMO and gluten-free and things like that. A few other ones to watch out for that pretty much have absolutely no meaning. Cage-free or free range. Either one of those, you see those a lot on chicken and eggs. There's actually really no definition of free range. They say as long as the chicken is outside at some aspect. Yeah, and so like you never know how big of a cage that they're actually in. So that's kind of a one to watch out for. Another one is pasture raised. That really has no meaning either. There's a few other ones. No sugar added. Usually when you see no sugar added, you look to the back and you'll see stevia or some type of artificial sweetener in it to make it taste better. You see a lot of times no sugar added, and then you see sugar alcohols in it. That's a big one I see a lot, because when I look in the back, I'm like, oh, there's sugar in it, but there's not sugar like the common form of sugar.
Right. Yep.
It's just a different form. So you got to watch out for that. You also got to watch out for made with real fruit. That's a big one I see on like a lot of like gummy stuff, gummy bears and different things like that. It's like it says made with real fruit. That really has no meaning and no
maybe trace amounts of it. Like the majority of it's probably artificial.
Exactly. So watch out for that type of stuff. And you were talking about how these companies are also like marketing towards kids, and I just read too that kids on average, and this was a study done in 2012, so we're talking 9 years ago now. It's probably went even up more. Kids saw on average 13 advertisements for food a day. So that just goes to show you how much money and how much they put it in your face to make sure that you see it. So you really got to watch out for that. And I liked how you mentioned like they say cereals and different things, and like try to associate it with healthy people and like healthy aspects of life. Like don't get caught up with that. Healthy people eat whole foods. They eat foods that are recognizable to our body that we ate hundreds of years ago too. So all those things you got to watch out for. And then to what Bethany was talking about how salt and sugar, and we have these bliss points. There's actually a really good book. It's by Michael Moss, and it is called, I don't want to get it wrong here, so it's called Hooked: Food, Free Will, and How the Food Giants Exploit Our Addictions. So that's if you want to get into some like really deep stuff on how and why they do it, that's a good book. I've also listened to a couple podcasts that Michael Moss was on, and it's really interesting. He talks about how they test to see how the food bag opens, how it's gonna make you more addicted to it, or how it's gonna make you feel, like when just the sound of it and then the smell of it and different things like that. Things you wouldn't guess in a million years that these food companies are doing. They're doing some pretty shady business. So you gotta watch out. They're not out to help you. They're out to get your money. So just learning to read, like you said, learning to read the back of a food label. If you don't recognize the ingredients that are in it, it's probably not that good for you. So that's what I caution people trying to get good at reading food labels, looking at not only the macronutrients, but also just ingredients. And I mean, like if there's some whack substance in there, like it's probably not meant to be in your body. So that's all I wanted to speak on pretty much.
And I would almost go as far as to say, like, I actually don't care as much like looking at how much fat, how much carbs, and how much protein's in it. I care more about like where the source is coming from and like what are the actual ingredients. Like for example, I try to eat as much whole foods as possible, but one of my favorite snacks is called the RX bar. It's basically like a snack bar. It's not even really a protein bar, because it does have quite a bit of sugar, but the sugar comes from dates. So it's literally like 4 ingredients. It's egg whites, almonds, dates, and one other thing. So I would rather have that than, for example, a 0 sugar 20 gram protein bar that has 35 ingredients and a bunch of preservatives. Even though it's got more sugar, less protein, it's only 4 ingredients and I know what's in there. So when you're looking at that, don't be so conscious about I have to get 0 sugar and I have to get as much protein as I possibly can. Although that's important and we want to try to keep our sugar content low, fruit, for example, has a lot of sugar and you're going to not, cut out fruit. You need fruit because it's got a bunch of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals that we need to help our body's health. So I would try to pay attention more or less to the ingredients themselves. Obviously look for the added sugars. Unfortunately, a lot of things are going to have a lot of added sugar. If it's only a couple grams, I wouldn't worry about it. Don't be super scared by just a little bit of sugar. We actually are going to need some sugar. Your body's going to burn it up anyways, as long as you're somewhat active. So don't be super alarmed by that, but just try to be more conscious of how many ingredients, if you can pronounce them or not. You do a little research. Maybe if you don't know what an ingredient is, just Google it really fast. The nice thing is we have all the information we possibly need right here in our hand every single day. Although you're getting advertised for cereal bars and stuff like that on there too. But and now we'll probably get a bunch of those advertisements because they're listening to us.
Yeah,
but that's another bad thing with our technology. But all this kind of sounds like, okay, this seems really hard. Like, how are we possibly going to eat healthy with so many foods packed with preservatives and sugars? Really just try to make it more simple. Just buy foods that don't have an ingredient label. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, like grass-fed meat, like, go to your local deli or somebody that maybe raises their own beef and cattle, things like that. Like, try to get local stuff. I always get, like, my eggs, for example, are local. One of our members brings them in for us, so I know that they're good. So things like that. It's just make life more simple, like how it used to be. Unfortunately, we've reverted to just this large amounts of foods that, with the shelf life that they have to have, that's why they're packing it full of preservatives. And so if you just make life more simple by buying around the aisles and just getting the actual food itself, you're going to be way better off.
And now it's summer, so there's a ton of produce stands, farmers markets, different things going on. So really try to take advantage of those, because those are foods that you should be eating. Usually they come from a pretty trustworthy source. Yeah. These people are not out to get you or hurt you. Right. They're trying to make their products as organic as possible. So support your local farmers and that too.
Yeah, exactly. And you're supporting them too, and supporting the community. So that's another good thing is, when you're buying all these foods, you might be saving money, but you're supporting a business that literally makes billions of dollars a year by making you fat and unhealthy. So, start taking care of yourself and start getting back, in shape by eating healthier and avoiding that stuff. And it's not going to benefit you, it's going to benefit your whole family. And especially think about the children. It might be a very tough thing to break them of because they're so highly addicted to this stuff already. But you're going to have to at some point. You're going to have to change their ways. If they are somebody that's addicted to cereals and sugars and candy and pop and all this stuff, they're not going to be able to go on the rest of their life like that, or else they will develop diabetes or some kind of disease or die an early death, and we don't want that. We want to try to have people sustain a long, healthy lifestyle. So if you're not sure on what to eat or how to eat or anything like that, do a little research or reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We help people build a nutrition plan that works for them. We help you give better food choices, things like that. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. This is our 10th video now. We're going to continue doing them every single week to try to bring you as much nutrition or information and knowledge as possible on nutrition and fitness and all that stuff. So if you want to see more good content like this, feel free to subscribe and like it, share it with anybody that might use the information.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, yeah. That's what
down below.
Right, yeah, somewhere around down below. Anything else to add, you guys?
That's think the rest is pretty good.
Did you bring up the study about how
Sugar.
Yeah, the sugar.
Oh,
that's
so-
that's really interesting. I think you should say that.
There are statistics 200 years ago. We kind of got off the topic.
Yeah.
But 200 years ago, the average consumption of sugar was 2 pounds a year for like Americans, and in 1970 it was 123 pounds of sugar a year, and today it's 152 pounds of sugar a year, which is literally like 3 bags a week.
3 pounds,
3 pounds a week.
Wow.
Because there's just so much added sugars in like milk
So-
and everything like that.
16 ounces of sugar would be about a pound. So that's like 3 of these shakers full of sugar that the average person
That's the
consumes
average.
every week.
Not the extreme.
Yeah.
That's the average, yeah. And unfortunately, 70% of people in the United States are overweight. I think it's like almost 50% are obese.
Yeah.
A little under 50% are obese. So when you think about the
Sugar's a big
Sugar's-
one. Sugar's a big one that
Yeah.
that contributes.
So if
to
you're gonna get your sugar, try to get it from fruits at least.
Yeah.
Try to avoid all the processed stuff and the artificial stuff. So I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yep.
Make sure you subscribe and like it, share it, and we'll keep bringing you more and more videos like this to get you guys more information and hopefully help you guys live a long, healthy lifestyle. So until next time, stay healthy and have a good day. Later.
See ya.